WUSA 9 News at 6 a.m. begins with major breaking news. A deadly crash has shut down LaGuardia Airport. At least 2 people are dead after a passenger plane collided with a fire truck on the runway of LaGuardia.
This is a fast-moving situation, and information is still coming in by the minute. We want to head out to a special report now to get more details on this investigation.
Special report. I'm Vladimir Duthier in New York. We're coming on the air with news overnight of a deadly collision at New York's LaGuardia Airport. These are pictures from the scene after an Air Canada jet hit an emergency vehicle crossing the runway late last night. 2 are dead, dozens are hurt. The airport will be closed for several hours as the NTSB prepares to investigate. Senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve joins me now to talk about this. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, Vlad. This was an Air Canada Jazz or Air Canada Express CRJ regional jet. We understand there were about 72 passengers plus 4 crew on board. Tragically, the flight crew, the 2 pilots, were killed in this collision. What we know is the plane was cleared to land. It had landed on runway 4. It was slowing down when it collided with a fire truck that was responding to a situation on the other side of the airfield. We can hear in air traffic control audio that the controller cleared that fire truck to cross runway 4, then quickly realized that he had just put it on a collision course with this airplane, pleaded with that fire truck to stop, but it was too late. Those couple of seconds were not enough time for that fire engine to stop. The collision happened. We know that approximately 41 people were taken to the hospital with varying injuries, 39 of them from the plane, 2 of them firefighters on board that fire truck. The NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, is launching a GO team. They will lead this investigation to look into the situation as to how this happened, why this happened. One thing that's very clear from the air traffic control audio is it was one controller who appeared to be handling an emergency with another airplane as well as this situation. So this all started, Vlad, actually before the Air Canada flight touchdown. A United flight aborted its takeoff because of a warning light in the cockpit. They then reported an odor on board the airplane, declared an emergency. That's why the fire truck was trying to cross the runway to respond to that plane. There were reports of flight attendants had been sick. They checked in with the air traffic control tower, as is policy when they're going to cross a runway. They were cleared to do so mistakenly. In fact, we hear the controller after the incident telling another pilot that he messed up. That pilot said he thought he did everything he could have done in that situation. One of the things the NTSB will want to understand, was this controller alone in that air traffic control tower? Why was he juggling so many things? It was late at night, but we saw controller workload factor into the mid-air collision in Washington, D.C. That had been the focus of conversation around aviation safety for over a year now. Vlad?
It's such a unique confluence of events. You've got that plane that is experiencing an issue, which then sends the truck out there, the air traffic controller realizing that there's an aircraft coming in. Now, according to the reporting that you did earlier this morning, it appears that the plane was coming in and had already landed, was going about 24 miles an hour. So not incredibly fast, but at that point with the truck crossing the runway, is there anything at all the pilots could have done?
There's not a lot they can do, Vlad. They're braking, and it's not. They're not going fast enough to take off again. And this isn't like a car where they can maneuver easily. So they have limited options. One pilot I was talking to early this morning wondered if the fire truck could have seen the plane coming. And we know there was rainy conditions. It was late at night. So certainly one of the things the NTSB is going to try to understand was what did the fire crew, what did they see? What did they know about the proximity of that airplane? But for those pilots, it doesn't look like there was a whole lot they could do as they're trying to slow this airplane down.
Yeah, we see images that we just showed to our viewers there of the front nose of that aircraft absolutely crushed, destroyed. There you see it there on your screen, a horrific incident. Chris Van Cleve reporting for us this morning. Chris, thank you as always. Just to recap, 2 people were killed after an Air Canada jet hit an emergency vehicle crossing the runway at LaGuardia Airport late last night. Dozens were hurt. LaGuardia will be closed until at least 2 p.m. this afternoon. That's according to authorities. We'll have much more on this story coming up on CBS Morning starting at 7 a.m. Coverage will continue now on your local news and on our streaming channel, CBS News 24/7. This has been a CBS News special report. I'm Vladimir Duthier in New York.
All right, there you have it. We are just learning more after the accident at LaGuardia. And as you heard, 2 pilots are dead. We were getting a look at the plane, the front cab of the plane that had collided with a fire truck as it was landing at LaGuardia. Again, we're expecting some major fallout from this. At least 200 flights have been canceled so far at LaGuardia. That was just at first check this morning. And this is some of the video from earlier today. Here's a look at the cab that I was telling you about. You can see just how big of an impact. There's the fire truck on its side. And some of the information is just preliminary, just coming down. 2 people are dead. Again, both of those pilots.
Right. As Chris Van Cleve, who was the transportation correspondent there for CBS News, was reporting about covering the story, initially, United Airlines Flight 2384 aborted their takeoff because there was some, the anti-ice warning light had come on. There was an odor in the cabin, so they requested assistance from the fire department. That's what led to this. Air Canada from Montreal had landed. They were slowing down 24 miles per hour when they hit that fire truck, that fire vehicle. And that's what led to this incident. And of course, as you mentioned, Simone, this is a big deal because this is a trickle-down effect because not only is there going to be a massive investigation here, but this is going to, because this airport is closed for now, airports all across the country will be affected by this. And we're already dealing with what's going on with TSA and people in long lines. So this is going to have a major impact, in addition to the investigation as to why this happened, what went wrong, could it have been prevented. Lots of things will be unfolding as this investigation starts to pick up.
LaGuardia was one of 4 major airports across the country that was already experiencing 3-hour-long delays in terms of TSA. They were already warning people to come 3 hours minimum early. And so now with the closure well into the afternoon, this is going to be a mess in terms of travel. But I thought something else was very important. Chris Van Cleve had highlighted aviation safety in terms of what was going on. He does believe audio at the time reflected that there was one controller possibly alone in the tower trying to juggle the emergency you talked about, and then the plane trying to land, which is reminiscent of what we saw at the crash at DCA. They were understaffed, overworked, and did that now contribute to yet another deadly incident?
And that's been a conversation that's been going on since that incident happened. So as the NTSB starts to investigate this and peel back the layers as to what happened, what went wrong, that could come up in the conversation as well, and see what happens next. What comes out of this? How did this play into what went on in DC when that crash happened as well? So a lot to uncover here as the investigation is just starting. NTSB launching a GO team that will go to New York and try to get to the bottom of this and see what happened.
And you and I will be watching the flights for all of you at home and how that affects all of you who are traveling.
Right. All right.